Hello, I'm on the internet. Fine. Hi, YouTube. I'm new to this, so bear with me. I'm still learning how to do all this stuff. But somebody wanted to talk about something, so I thought I'd create a little chit chat window for them. Also, some people don't like me on their channels, so. Live stream test 1. Hi, it's me. Okay. Yeah, come on up. Oh, wait a minute. I gotta post the StreamYard thing. Hold on, let me figure that out. So let me post the link and see if that's how this works. Hi, SIT. Do you see the StreamYard link? I think that's how you post the link. I don't know. I just copied the link in the bar. Do you see it or not? I don't know what I'm doing. So I think if you click on that and then you join the chat or something, I can add you to the room. Somewhere in time. By the way, please don't. Okay, hi. I was like, can you hear me?
Hi, iFi. Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, how are
Somewhere
you?
in time. I'm peachy. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm kind of watching you go in and out of the sets and people kind of like knocking you out, and you kind of got some good points. And there's just so many, sometimes like five, six people, and it's really hard to get what you're
That's
getting
okay.
out.
It's
Yeah.
panel verse. All is fair in love and war. So we're
Mhm.
all grown ups. We can hack it.
Mhm.
Or some of us are grown ups. Some of us are still learning.
Exactly. So where do you come in from? So where I saw you come was Gen X, and that was maybe about a month and a half or so ago. And Lib seemed to be coming on there daily, and Chuck, and I just kind of wasn't going back as much. But I would go back, and you would be on there and kind of
Oh,
doing.
I left Outliers a long
Mhm,
time ago because I kind of reached my limit of how much we can talk about stuff.
mhm,
So Gen X Jeff is a real, soft peach and everything, but obviously we're going to disagree on like 98% of the stuff we talk about. I never got
mhm,
into like heated, angry debates with him. It was mostly his panel that were so unbearable, including Lib, and even his co-host Chris eventually got to the end of my patience. So
mhm,
um,
mhm.
I stopped being polite at some point because I was very polite at first, just to have civil conversations and such, but
Right, right.
After the introductions were done, I just got down to business, and so once you start talking shop, it's just time to lay your cards on the table and talk about stuff. So
Right, no fence setting. Yeah. So
yeah,
let me get a roundabout because I kind of get. Let me just throw it out there. There's a lot of characters, right, floating around. You're trying to figure
the
out.
panel verse, yeah, the this corner of
Yeah,
it.
right. And so let me just figure out and tell me if I've got you. I'm not really sure if you even stand on a stance. I think you're completely against. It's one extreme or the other, but definitely communism. Like the whole lib thing, you're against that, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm
Right,
very
right.
anti-communist,
Yeah,
strongly.
yeah. And then, do you listen to Jack, or are you something about the social and how you think that works over capitalism, or where do you come in on that? Because I really don't know your stance, and I'm
Oh,
open minded.
I'll be happy to tell you my stance and to save you the trouble of answering all the other side questions, like against this person or that person. I'll just tell you my stance, and then I'll let you figure out who's for it or
You,
against.
yeah, okay.
You probably heard me mention Conservataria every once in a while. It's this magical land of utopian bliss where all the smart and intelligent, not smart and intelligent, the good and intelligent people live. And so they coexist peacefully and thrive and prosper.
Hmm.
So Conservataria is a morally conservative foundation that creates a libertarian government that enforces and protects capitalism.
Okay.
And the only other like strong recommendation I would add to the political discussion is instead of a democracy, I would recommend a meritocracy.
And what does that entail? Give me.
So a meritocracy says that if we're going to have a government and put people in positions of power, um, they should be qualified to take that role, like a leadership role, or like in
Hmm.
charge of important stuff like nuclear weapons or our
Right,
economy and
not a
stuff like that.
president that was a farmer with a bean field.
Right, right, and not some guy, not like the corpse of a demented pedophile or something like that. Like we
That's
don't want
been
those people.
placed.
Right,
Hmm.
right. So, so with those things in mind, those are my non-negotiables. Everything else is pretty much debatable, and even those things have their gray areas because capitalism is not pure black and white, but it's my view of it is pretty
Right.
black and white.
So where I come on that is I totally agree, but then I also look at our bar and our base of education and then our pharmakia and where those come from the Rockefeller stance, right? From, late 17, early 1800s is when they really put it in a stamp and what was going to be. So what we're looking at is possibly even changing some of those marks because those are already like, the way that even the presidents are basically picked. We know that, but there's just so many levels that need to be just broken down to
Oh,
get to what you're talking about.
our current system is so FUBAR. It's a military term. I don't know if you're familiar with.
Mhm. Mhm.
That I don't really present any of my arguments as if I was going to like debate Trump or something as a alternative candidate, because like our current system is beyond repair. Like there's nothing we could do at this point to repair our current system. So it would just require so much like revolution after revolution to even get us kind of back on track. So like
Mhm. Mhm.
um
No, no,
I,
I agree.
at this point we're just basically looking at like a great reset or a civil war to kind of like wipe the slate clean and start over again, like let's try this again, but this time let's not screw up everything. But anyways,
Right.
so I used to be like a kind of like optimistically hopeful person, very naive when I was young and dumb. I used to think that like I could vote for Ron Paul and he would save us and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
clearly not on
Okay, let me give you
on the
one
table.
naive at
Yeah.
around 35 or so, and this is when I finally settled down at 30. And,
Hmm.
and I mean settled down and I was going to raise my two kids and I'm not traveling anymore cuz I led quite a lifestyle from 17 right out of high school. So at 30, and I remember around 35, I remember my going to my dad, and he always was playing Fox News, right? And he had got the
Yeah.
cable. I never watched TV. I never got into the late night sitcoms, or I worked nights,
Hmm.
and I never was really influenced by movies. I never watched horror movies. And I remember the Apple computer coming out. I was a really good typist, took it in high school so I could type. But I do remember asking my dad, like at about 35, and I was just like, Dad, can you kind of break down what a Democrat is and what a Republican is? Like, I was really like, what's going on? I
Hmm.
really wanted to understand it. And then he goes, Michael, and he tried to tell me, um, used to be, and he goes, Dad was registered a Democrat, and it used to be, even if it was the other side of the aisle, you would vote for the candidate that you felt was working best for, whatever, A, B, C, D.
Right.
He goes, but then I registered as a Republican. And I just remember him saying that. And so I was like, I need to vote if I want to have a word in whatever, right? Like, I was starting to get pretty patriotic. I wanted to do the best for my kids.
Hmm.
Okay, that's where I was at. And I was working really hard and taking care of my elderly father. I was not married. So I was getting into this whole patriotic thing. And I
Hmm.
just figured out what Democrat and Republican was at 35.
Wow.
Like
At
I was in my
35.
own, yeah, I understood the world. I was in it. I was traveling, but I wasn't in the political sense of it.
Well,
And I never, yeah, it
luckily
was
for me,
weird.
I learned a little earlier. Like I started to pay attention around the end of high school. And by the time I was like 20 or 22, I already kind of got the gist of our political system. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, like you, I was like, well, clearly we should all be voting Republican and that will save us. And so, um, but then I got older and wiser and actually started to learn about politics. And then I realized it's complete BS. Like I said, like voting Republican does nothing. It's not going to change anything in our government. And it's just like a sugar pill where it makes you feel like you're making a difference, but
Right,
even though your
right.
vote doesn't
No, I
matter.
got the sticker, and listen, by the grace of God, the night before, this is how I was gung ho go, right?
Hmm.
2001, that whole thing happened. I really woke up, like, rip Building 7. Like, it was immediate, and I flew out a month later. I was like, I have no fear. And I flew to New York. And I had a girlfriend there that I had danced with in Japan, and she was my roommate in Vegas. So, anyways, I did that. That was my whole, I'm American and I have no fear. Like, they're not going to. And they were building that up, right? They needed their
Hmm.
forces. So they purposely did that so that people would sign up. Like, we're gonna
and
support our
and piss
homeland,
away all
right?
your freedoms and let them
Exactly,
take
with the
control of
Patriot Act.
your life.
Right. And so now my kids they're conditioned. They don't think twice about going to the airport. They were born in the era when it happened. They were both actually in school. One was only doing half day. And I remember I was working nights. So it was kind of about noonish. And I just remember being like, I want to leave. Even though I was on the West Coast, I felt like I just wanted to leave and get my kids from school. They did such a psyop. I mean, there was TVs in the break room and on, like where they would play the football. This was in the casino at the time. So it was
Mhm.
my second career. I was dealing high limit blackjack. So the TVs were on, and it was kind of early morning. Maybe it was earlier than that. I want to say like 4:30 or maybe 5 in the morning,
Mhm.
6:30, 7:30. You got to figure New York time, and we're an hour behind, whatever it was. And I saw the second plane, and I happened to be on break. And I just remember getting that feeling. It was such a psyop on me. And it wasn't until maybe about 2 weeks later, I just remembered looking at it, and I'm like, I'm pretty good at like footage, and I was in the arts and dancing and traveling and doing sets and illusion acts and magic. So
Uh-huh.
I kind of pick. There's a sense to me that just picks up on stuff, right? Like quick hands, quick
Sleight of hand.
movements.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
know exactly
and
what
and and word salad, all that. So
uh-huh.
I started picking up on that like a couple, and that's when I bought the JetBlue for like 239 round trip ticket from Vegas to New York, and I said I'm going. And so in my heart, I've kind of had that lion's heart, and I am a Leo, but I really have had that lion's heart. Like, I'm not going to get fooled again. So then here comes 2008, and I sense it, and I draw all my money out. And you know how I did it? I did 2 loans. And then I knew something was coming. It was like a little knock on the back of my head. And with Obama, and I just kept thinking, this hope and change. And something kept telling me, change in your pocket, change in your pocket. I
Yeah.
swear. And next thing I did, I went and got it was like they just needed proof in order for you to take it out that you were going to do a secondary education. Well, nothing in there says that if you change your mind, you have to give the money back. So I sent them the application for the beauty school and all this and said I was going to be going into that as my secondary since my education was 12th grade, and I went right into show business, and I traveled right 17 till 30. And at this point, 2008, I'd been working there since 99. So my 401k was building up, and they're 3% every year, whatever, and they were matching. And I got that out by getting it in literally 2 weeks before the big old crash. And I have a bunch of brothers, but one of them had to sell 2 homes in San Diego. Everything went so upside down. But I
Mm.
got my stuff out, and I just remember that another guy who was into stocks that I worked with, he killed himself. Like, it was pretty bad.
Oh
And
yeah.
I just, you know what I mean? That was 2008. So then I started to really wake up. By 9 and 10, I'm like showing my dad giants and going, Dad, why did they take those Smithsonian? Why don't they teach that stuff? What? And then I started getting really curious, and I started getting into Genesis, and I started kind of going backwards and thinking, like, I've done everything before and everything was going great. It's just I started going more into like, what the hell is this realm? And what are they doing? And that's when it kind of started for me, like 9 or 10. And this is
Wow.
after 2000, 2001, and everything started, I was aware, my spidey senses were going up, but it really hit me more like 2009, 2010.
Hmm.
And then I moved by 2013. So it was said and done. Like, I'm where I'm at and got out of the concrete jungle. And that's my story. So that's why I was kind of curious where you were at and if you felt what went on this last 4 years. You said you did, and now you're kind of feeling a little like long COVID from it. And I'm just curious, like, what's going down
Oh
for
yeah,
you.
I've got a whole beef with that. That's gonna be one of my topics, by the way. Like, as soon as I can talk, I'm gonna um, start talking about the quality of our public knowledge and our government, our institutions, all that stuff, and how well they handled the epidemic and stuff. Now that we're allowed to talk about it, but anyways, that's one of my pet peeves because, like I said, I've been out for 5 months trying to recover from long COVID. So that's why I haven't even started my content yet because I had a channel up like 6 months ago. And then, like, as soon as I was about to start making content, I got COVID, and then I got bronchitis and
Mm.
laryngitis and all that shit. And
It's
so,
getting the receptors in your lungs, and this particular ointment that we'll just
yeah.
say that they've put in, it literally goes past the blood barrier. It's made for that, and it's like self-assembling, instructing itself, and you've got to learn about the metal um, substitute, which is the nanotechnology that they can use through frequency and through your phone and through the 2019 EO, which was to litter every 50 feet in every county across our nation with those poles with the light on them. And those can literally light you up. For those that have, you kind of can show up through their technology as a hologram, but
Hmm.
through your technology that's in you literally now, and the gentleman I told you, there's a lot. I've lost 5 people since, just to let you know that
Oh
for
no.
my age or a little younger, and unfortunately they never even had COVID. They just, to keep their job or whatever their situation, whatever happened, I've lost 5. Okay,
Yeah, there's a
and
lot of tragic stuff happening too. I think this is why there's like such a breakdown in like the general mental stability of our
hmm
population
hmm
because
they're
like
overstimulated.
there's already like we already had like crazy deranged people, but then like all the normal people are starting to like break up a little bit because of all this bullshit we're having to go through. And so there's so many like layers of stuff going on that
You see it.
I don't want to have to like bring it all back up again, but like I think that's the only way we're gonna ever be able to like really deal and cope with stuff is to like
Right, right.
stay.
No, there was that word's not coming out of my mouth right now. Corrosion. It is corrosion in your body, but corrosion, like they're
Corruption
whatever.
or corrosion?
Well, it's corrosion, but it's they're $100 or a donut, whatever that. They were in their way. They were bribing you in the name of health, but
Oh,
yet they were getting.
corruption. Corruption.
Yeah, it's corruption. It's corrosing somebody. I'm not
Okay.
saying I'm not saying the word right, but it is what I meant. It is what I'm trying to get out there, but it's not coming to me for some
That's all
reason.
right. Sometimes it happens.
Yeah, it happens. But yeah, they did a lot of that, and you could really see it was such a campaign worldwide of how they were going about it. And then to have it in just the optics of it, if the 30,000 foot view. And I had the pleasure of being not at the time where it was being asked of me, or I needed to go anywhere particular that was, anything like that. That wasn't in my situation. So I was able to avoid that. But other people were put, they have families, they've got jobs, or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't a law. And it never really was FDA. It was an emergency. And I think it was a test run to see, in a lot of ways, on the overall, not just America, but in the compliance area of it. And they really stuck it to us. I mean, you got the Talion going next to the TV sets and stuff like that. I haven't had a TV in over, I would say, 10 years myself, but um,
Ditto.
it's just, you know what I mean? It's just something that it's just that constant, like in your face, and they just kept drilling it. And people are attached to it, and their anxieties go up, and it's in the back of their mind, and people don't realize they're hypnotized by the jest and the sway of whatever the latest topic or whatever. Like one week we were down in that COVID, and those things went away, and they did their thing for 2 years, and then boom, we're in Ukraine, and it's laundry day, like
Mm,
every day, you know.
yeah.
So
The same old stuff, different day. Except it's like, circling the drain every generation. So it's like it's definitely not getting better. And I guess the only good news we have is when we jumped off the cliff, we're not going straight down. We're just hitting a bunch of bumps along the way,
hmm
So it's like
hmm
it
no, it's
feels like it's not a straight free fall, but it's definitely going down pretty fast. But
right, right. Well, at least if you're aware of that, and whatever, is going down, and then it's affecting you within your lungs and possibly fluid, or I don't know. Like, everybody has their own different elements that are happening. It just depends. Um, just be aware of it, this next phase that's coming around. Don't try and like fall for it. Don't think that, just know there's a bigger agenda behind this, and getting everybody off of, they want everybody in this coexisting situation, which is their 2030, goal. And
yeah.
the best I can say, that it really wraps it all up, and people kind of missed the mark when it happened, but it was in the WEF in 2018, and Donald Trump was introduced by Klaus Schwab. And during that campaign, there was charts that were put out, and on those charts, you can see in every one of them, they're marked in all those different colors, which kind of is like the Olympic circle. But
Hmm.
there's all different types of charts, and that King Solomon was there, Xi was there. This is 2018. And
Weird.
this is shortly after 2017, when Donald had made his rounds, remember, to every uh, whatever,
Yeah, all the
whatever he,
leaders.
right. Okay, this is shortly after, and then the WEF happened. So
Mm.
I've been watching it very close since then. It's a speech maybe about 10, 15 minutes long. You can
Hmm.
pull it up, 2018 Donald Trump speech, WEF, and just watch that. And then you think about the poem, and then you think about a placeholder. Instead of Biden, we've got a Biden instead of Biden. Somebody left to be there, placeholder. to create the chaos, allow the borders, allow the pop, 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 so that the
Hmm.
other person can look like he's sweeping in as a white knight, which he had a
Yeah.
lot of practice and a
Mm,
lot of acting and a lot of people for auditioning. For how
mm.
long did The Apprentice run? And they were all actors and people with money that could invest in maybe say what's going on and what we're seeing now, and they're working in the system of it, right? Like,
Yeah, and see, I'm not. I don't. I really don't even dive deep into a lot of these things because, like, even just on the surface level, I quickly lose interest in certain things because, like,
mhm,
when people tell me about how important it is to vote either Biden or Trump, like Trump's not even really on my radar because, like, again, first of all, Trump was a Democrat even as early as
mhm,
like 2001, 2002, whatever. He was voting for Obama and stuff like that. And so
mhm.
this idea that he somehow represents the conservative right wing of our country or something like that, I'm like,
Oh, no,
you
no, no.
guys,
I know it's all. Listen, I worked for him for 2.5 years, 85 to 87. And
okay.
he called me when I was 18 years old. I just turned 19. And I was
Did he
center
grab you
stage and
by
I
the
would
vagina, by the way? Or,
he walked me. I came down the stairs. I was the last. I had the hugest costume in the show. I was the center. So I came down the very last and I'm literally going, Ivanka this and Ivanka that,
yeah.
not realizing Ivana is his daughter, and that's in my mind. I just remember that was his daughter. She was little. She was little, like 5 at the time, but his wife was Ivanka, right?
Uh,
And
yeah.
I just remember going down and swinging. It's this really big, like, costume. It looks like a piano in the back of my back. The straps, and then like it's silver and these huge, beautiful. It's just big, and I remember swinging that and going Ivanka this and Ivanka that, and I'd come around the second stairs, and he's down at the bottom with his hands up, like escorting the girls, the showgirls, onto the stage so he can take his group whatever. And
Mm.
I just remember being like, "Oh, okay." It's
Whoops.
just like, and then after that, about a month later, I have braces in my mouth, and they're on the inside so they don't shine on stage. Okay, so like inside of my mouth to like try and fix my mouth, and then
Uh,
on the bottom they're plastic. Well, at this time, I'm wearing like this outer space like thing at night so that my mouth can pull up and then drop, and then they're going to pull it back in, right? So my mouth has now been protruding a little bit out. He's got my manager taking me aside on the stairwell one night and says, "She has a horse mouth and I don't like her look. Can you mush her in the background?" And no, this is after I've been working there 2.5 years. So I'm like, "Oh, no, 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 no. I've got that man's name on my
uh,
paycheck for 2.5 years, and I am going to leave with dignity or keep my spot." Like, I don't understand what the change is now. And I think it was that at that time, I think it was around that's when we did the photos because they came to our show quite a bit and had their booth with the kids, and only the two were born at the time. And
wow.
yeah, so it was probably around the end of my show that he had made that comment. And I just remember going, you know what, I'm packing my bags. I'm good. Like, I've been here a minute and I didn't like Atlantic City. Like, I did the whole New York and Philly and Connecticut and the cabins and whatever. Like, I'd done the East Coast and I was good.
So what
And I
you're
was
saying
20.
is he's not the conservative candidate we should be voting for
He
to
just,
save our country?
in the, well, this is what I'm just to top it off. When he was in the debate in 2016, I don't remember the girl's starts with an L maybe, and he looked over at her and he goes, "You know, you got a horse mouth or something. Like, how can your husband, whatever,
Small
you have a
world.
horse mouth?" And when he said that, it flipping backfired on me so hard. Like, oh my God, he called me that when I was like 19.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what a crude, bitter heart person he is.
Yeah.
Like, he goes right for the looks. You know what I mean? Like, people can't, it's just, oh,
And
just,
these are the
yeah.
two best candidates that the United
Right,
States can
right. It's
produce. So
disgusting. It's disgusting.
so needless to say, even though like I said back in college, I started to pay attention. Like before, I didn't even care about politics. Like when I was in high school, I didn't care like who was voting for who or what the candidates were.
Well,
But
I
when
have
I
Reagan in my senior year yearbook. I'm gonna mic up because my thing goes bad sometimes. So let me know if you start hearing like feedback. So I'm gonna mic up while you tell me.
okay, yeah, I'll let you know. But so anyways, so once I start to become aware, like I said, at first I thought, it was my moral duty to like, vote for Bush or whoever, was the Republican at the time, because I thought that actually made a difference. Like I felt like that would push our country back into the right direction that it should be. But then as I got older, I quickly learned like how naive it is to even believe any of that stuff, because one of my favorite moments with Bush, for example, was this is when I started to like actually engage in debate with people about politics and stuff like that. We were trying to argue about what a wonderful hero George Bush Jr. was for our country, and this was right after the housing market crash, and like how the banks basically purposely caused the housing market crash.
That was
And
horrific. Do you remember the money that went out right after that to the banks?
yeah, and then who paid for the money to bail out all the banks that crashed our market? It was our good buddy, the Republican George Bush. And so I was like, wait a minute, isn't he supposed to be one of the good guys? Like, that was the whole point of voting for him, was to like, he was supposed to be like the anti-socialist communist or whatever that the left wing was. And because it's supposed to be the right wing that's like preserves all of our wonderful libertarian freedoms and our capitalist economies and all that stuff. And so that's when I started to become more aware of how completely gullible I was growing up, thinking that the system was working and that we could trust it, and that life could get better, so long as you do your patriotic duty and vote for the right person. And so the more I dug deeper into it, like I said, I got so disgusted with it that I completely learned a whole new political theory, because like I didn't even know what a libertarian was when I was like in college. And only through vigorous online debating
Me too. You're the same with me. That was me too.
I learned this new term, and I was like, "Oh, this is what I actually am," because I thought I was voting libertarian by, picking Republican or whatever. And so once I learned what the meaning of words, I was like, "Oh shit, I had it wrong the whole time," because again, I drank the Kool-Aid from birth, like I said, I had this notion that smart people were in charge and they knew what they were doing and they were making sure, we would never fuck up anything real bad or whatever.
This is
And
how I am now as I've gotten older. Like I look at people that are literally younger and I look at them like they're older, but when they open their mouths, like they look like they're just been put through the ringer, and they
mhm.
open their mouths and they are just so asleep, hypnotized,
Oh
gone.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, that's another thing. Like I remember, I'm Gen X, by the way. I don't know how old you are, but I'm like mid 40s now. But
I'm a Gen X. I'm a Gen X,
okay.
probably. Yeah.
Um so I already kind of had the notion that, again, the quality of life was going to start getting worse, very soon, because I remember growing up with these idiots and thinking like, man, when Gen X like, starts to become like the leaders of the world and shit, like we're screwed, because like these people are pretty dumb. And so but then like then the millennials came, and then the zoomers, and I was like, holy shit, I didn't think you could get like, much dumber than
It's
Gen X.
really bad. Yeah.
And so um and then I started even reflecting backwards, and then most of us grew up like with disdain for the baby boomers, because that's why we were sarcastic about everything, because even though we kind of generally respected them, we just felt like, they were very hypocritical or, shallow or whatever. But the more I think about it, they were pretty fucking dumb. And in fact, they were so dumb, they essentially destroyed our civilization within a single generation, because like, like our grandparents were pretty cool, like the World War II golden generation people. Those are the people that built the quality of civilization that we're still running on. Like that's
Well, I will come in on that one. My grandpa came over from Croatia and was in Las Vegas,
uh-huh.
and it wasn't a state until about they didn't bring it in, I believe, Silver State until 1905. So at the time, this might come to you as like, wait a minute, what's going on? The government was responding back and forth to a Mr. Clark, which is our county is named after Clark County, which is Nevada.
Mhm.
And Clark is up in Reno, which is our capital. So, anyways, my grandfather was in Las Vegas with the railroading there, and we had a store at Fifth and Ogden, the Piney grocery store, and everything was like on an IOU. Like he had to start kind of doing more work, like if the government was going to come through with funds for the camps. Now I have this paperwork for the camps that go along the railroad. And at the time, Mr. Clark was having an argument with the government saying we need the funds for the camps to go and open these lines up to San Francisco, and something about Beatty and going to the left or to the right, right? There was just something about there was two lines, which ones to be open. Government wrote back and said, we are not sending funds for the camps and the women and the children to tend with the families along the railroad to repair, not build, to repair at this time because Nevada is not a state. So the funds are non and void, but also the government has deemed that a wasteland. So, from my grandfather telling my dad when they were there, he said, look out across this, and one day, son, you're going to see lights from that end, from Sunrise Mountain all the way to Red Rock. And Sunrise looks like there's a chief laying there, like honest, like literally laying down. My dad used to point it out. Looks like an Indian chief, the mountain itself, like with
Mhm.
the headdress on and stuff. So that's Sunrise Mountain. But
Neat.
anyways, he told my dad that, and then it was all water at once. And then I went back and I looked at the oldest pictures that we have, and the main building that I graduated from, which is the only one standing, which has changed since, but was Las Vegas High. And my parents graduated there, and my siblings, I'm the baby of 8, all went to a Catholic, right? The Gorman and the whole private thing. And me being the baby, I ended up graduating from this Las Vegas High, which was this brick solid building. And then there was this ice factory that ran along the railroad. So I did a deep dive, Ivy, about 3 weeks ago on these because I just remember my dad always pointing that ice factory out by the railroad.
Mhm.
Come to find out, they're along all the railroads. They were built, and then there was these like type homes. Then I got into the homes that were next to it, and the beams that went down underground. And what we have underneath us, literally across the whole realm, over across the pond, is underneath us. There's a whole nother layer. There's a whole nother world going, like as above, so below kind of thing. Not like just the sky and us surface
Wow.
dwellers. Yeah, so but it goes a lot deeper than that. But yeah, those are that's the whole railroad thing. And then I got into the Titanic one, and I was able to go deep. And I found a lady, and I just did screenshots because I don't want to take her to take her film, and
Mhm.
roll it or use it. And anyways, I put together a little bit of a thing, but or I'm going to. I haven't done it yet. And this one was the Titanic. I have the pictures where they're documenting the stuff that was already in the boat. You can see it's worn out. It is sculpturing of like kings and things that aren't of that time. Like when that sailed in 1812 and that boat supposedly was built for that sailing,
Uh-huh.
that stuff that was in that boat, I have pictures of look like sailors or whatever. There's one guy documenting the stuff. There's another guy that's like literally cleaning up one of the things. And then if you look on the wall, you see like this. It's incredible. So I was able to look at that, and then I have this one picture of this guy, and the boat is so tattered. It's up against it's wherever they're repairing it, and you can see the nodules that are in the side, and he's literally there with a hammer, and they're fixing the bolts of the side of the Titanic. And
Weird.
so yes, so that makes me go, oh my god, they knew that was a sail of doom because they knew that it couldn't hold it because for whatever disaster happened, Ivy, that
Mhm.
took that civilization out, that built all of these huge doors, 30 feet tall, okay, locks that are 30 pounds.
Mhm.
Okay, those giants that are hid and we don't get to know about them in the Smithsonian. When those people came and they were saying, oh, this is the gold rush and that whole Wild Wild West bullshit. No, 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 no. You go across, you stay on the land for 6 weeks, you can claim it, and from there you dig because it's a wasteland, Ivy. And once you dig, you start exposing these things. They've got silver leaf tops. They've got spirals that are run off the ether, free energy. Now you've got the World's Fair in San Francisco. You got Chicago. You got New York. All of them burnt to the ground after the World's Fair and showing off all of the tech that are um, uh, Tesla guy was reverse engineering. So get this for
Nikola
deep.
Tesla.
Yes, okay, he was reverse engineering all that crap. Okay,
Wow.
get this one. In February 16th to the 20th, it was signed in Congress for Henry Ford, and I have the paperwork. It was the first contract they were giving from the government, and the representative from Nebraska states and says, if we do this contract with the private citizens, we are no longer the United States. We are now a corporation. And it's a 99-year contract for him to slap his fucking name on that thing. And it's a hydraulic system that's up in Nebraska, and it ran 344 gallons a minute. It could feed the whole Midwest, and it's a hydraulic system. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of horses that they have. I'm talking stuff that our people do not know, that this is our history. And
Whoa.
my dad and I know that it's a 99-year contract because in Las Vegas on Ogden and Fifth, the grocery store we had, a gal got it from my dad's family when they went into the railroad part of it, right? They got a 99-year lease in 1923 around then. And in 2010, I said, what the hell are you doing collecting $1,200 a month for that property downtown on Fremont that's being rebuilt right now? And it's like every Friday they're locking it up and they're having like, it's huge, right? Vegas is like downtown's like coming to life again. So they go and they have it appraised. The gal's got to pay 11 grand. The boys that are left that have got their parts of it, right? My dad and his couple brothers and maybe a son because the dad died or something, right? They go and do that, and my dad's like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I frickin' saved them." So that lady can't pay the rent. So now they're gonna have to sell it. So they make like a mint off this property that had a 99-year lease on it. This is how I found out Henry Ford got the lease for the hydraulic system in Nebraska to get that thing reverse engineered and then start charging us. And then it also states, get this, it states we want that up and going because we're going to need the oil for the gas because these vehicles that we need to get up and going, it's going to be expensive. And
Mm-hmm.
I've got a picture of an old whale type well like oil thing. It says Ford on it. This is before, and I've got a brick building that supposedly they put up, which is a manufacturing place. It looks old as shit. The sidewalk, the brick, and that's supposed to be brand new for the Ford company and the cars. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit. Those are our black hats, the men in black that
Oh
came
my
over here.
goodness.
And I'm not shitting you. I figured it out, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm probably going to get taken out for knowing this stuff
Oh.
because it changes our history. Like there's a marble carving of George Washington
Mm-hmm.
in an Egyptian seat with an Egyptian chariot to the side of it.
Oh
So
no.
his face on Mount Rushmore and the other face of Lincoln, those were there before.
Weird. How is that even possible?
Yeah, yes. And then get this, in Oregon and Washington, they dug up under all that mud flood, they dug up these pipes that got 13 stars on them and these king looking guys of different like Asian and Viking and George Washington, and they all have. It says United States, and it's got 13 stars on it up in Washington and Oregon area. And
Mm.
these are pipes, and they're trying to write it off that this was made in this ivory and this is just so crazy. The stuff I ran into, it's great though.
I can't even begin to wrap my head around like how much history that we don't know about yet. You know, like when we find out about history, I think it's
Yep.
just gonna blow a lot of people's minds. But
Yep. So what I was getting at, as far as them going across,
hmm
they were collecting that gold, Ivy. They collected it. They did the World's Fairs. Everybody was living right. You got the Roaring Twenties. 23, you get the 99-year contracts through the government. And then all of a sudden in 1929, you get the depression, the Great Depression, because now they've taken all that gold back from everybody that collected it off all the shit they got. And all the people that wouldn't go along with it, they put them into these huge institutions,
Yeah.
insane asylums. We've got orphanages. We've got all
hmm
these colleges that look like cathedrals. And like, come on. We didn't build those with horse and buggy. Give me a fucking break.
So now I think you're doing a pretty good job of illustrating the why. At one point, I started to like um kind of like disengage my brain from all this research and knowledge, because it was like the more you learn about stuff, the more like crazy and depressing it gets, and you're just like, you
It's
know,
crazy.
at
The
some
Statue
point
of Liberty was moved in 1985, and then I found the article on that. And what do
it
you
was
call those?
moved. Where was it moved
Yes,
to?
from the Star Fort that it originally was on, that welcomed the people coming from into Ellis Island.
Uh,
It was moved to what they built Liberty Island, and in '85 they had to build. Um, if you know the name of it, when you build staffing, yeah, okay. So in this article, it says this is the largest scaffolding ever made in America to drop the the fire, the just the piece at the top that she's holding, the
the
flame.
torch. Yeah.
Okay, to drop that. And in this article says that. So if that's the biggest ever made on America, how the hell did we get it there in the first place?
I don't even know.
Uh, it's just
So
logical questions like that that make you go, hmm.
right, and see, like I said, just even uncovering the surface level stuff was already like making me feel like, oh man, I don't even want to know about like the deep, underground stuff, because like I don't even want to know about like what horrible things really happened in history and how
Well,
disgusting
I
our
will tell you
government
this
really
about our
is.
Were you with the military?
No, I never was.
Oh, you used that word earlier.
Oh,
That's why I was wondering.
FUBAR, yeah, because
Yeah,
I'm familiar with the lingo, but I didn't engage in the
gotcha.
military myself.
Gotcha. In 2018, there was 18 billion put aside for a special Marines to be trained for subterranean warfare. And we're right in the middle of it right now.
Subterranean, like,
That's why stuff's been going off in the oceans and in Beirut, the big one that went off.
oh, I thought you meant like
Big
under America and stuff, like in caves and
Well, in
shit. Or
Beirut and over there right now, what they're blowing up the tunnels under the ground. Yeah, like
I
in
mean,
down in Mexico,
I
Chile.
can see where there would be some connection to like the way the Vietnam War was fought or whatever, but
Yeah,
I'm
and
not really
China
sure.
Lake took that out, and all the things popping up and stuff was blowing up. Stuff in California. Yeah, they were working on some stuff. So
So
who knows what they're up to? Who
it sounds
knows?
like you have lots of fun and interesting stories to tell me about. I mean, you just uncovered all kinds of neat stuff that we can get deeper into at some point. But I'm trying to start from like a very, very, very basic, simple premise, and then like see how deep the audience can handle and go on
Right,
certain things.
right.
Um,
No,
I'm
nobody's on my level.
I'm also very concerned about not just like all of this knowledge, but properly processing all this knowledge. And so that's another
Well, the thing
can
is
of
the
worms.
receipts that I have actually are the Congress, like their papers from 1923.
Right, and that
Their papers on the patents. Their papers on when it was passed in 2014, as opposed to the big rush in 2019 to 2020 to get it out. Like the whole process of it, and the
I
military being involved,
I
and
mean,
yeah.
I mean, can you imagine like what kind of things we can talk about once like all of the like classified documents start becoming
Oh my
declassified and
god.
unredacted and uncensored? Like that'll be fun to learn about
Whew.
all kinds of neat things about our history. But anyways, so
It's a
here's my
pleasure talking to you.
yeah. Like I said, I think we'll have lots of fun political discussions in the future. So I was coming at this channel more from like a step by step process to try and like slowly start repairing civilization back to a level where we can have these conversations because
Yeah, yeah.
um part of the problem I think we've reached at this point is like there's so many people that are like trying to deal with very deep complex conspiracies and all kinds of shenanigans and stuff, and meanwhile, like you said, there's some people that haven't even figured out whether or not like our two party system is a complete sham or not or
Oh
whatever. And
yeah.
so
It's a debacle.
there's such a diverse range of people's intelligence and abilities and stuff like that that I don't even know where to
See,
begin. Like
I'm more way past that, like 5 or 6 years ago. Like I've
uh-huh.
just left it behind.
Yeah.
I'm digging into how the fuck did we get here? And
Right.
I'm looking at contracts for 99 years. It was up in 2023. It got bombed and taken out in 2019. It flooded out the whole Midwest and Nebraska. People lost their homes. They got an insurance payout for 1.6 million. So the Ford company made out like a bandit and their contract's up 2023. So what are we doing now? We've got some Asian guy, I believe, that took the contract and they're redoing it, but they're breaking it down and they're going to be making three different types of, you know what I mean? They're just,
Yeah.
it's a destruction of what really was just this massive megalithic. Who the hell built this thing?
And
No
so
horse,
this
no horse and buggy built it.
it's stuff like this that actually makes me kind of envy groups like the Amish people, for example, who have no idea what we're even talking about and don't care because they're like, our
The
lives
simple,
go on. We don't care about all whatever political stuff that you're dealing with,
beautiful.
and so it's like there's a certain wisdom in that path of life because it's like I love I don't know if you're familiar with the Machine Lies. He's a very anti-technology person in this panel verse here. Um,
Yes.
and so I understand his point of view, but like I'm not like so opposed to technology or whatever. It's I'm more concerned about like who's using the technology, and that's more of a
Hmm.
problem for me. It's not that
Hmm.
the technology itself is
Well, what you
inherently
have
evil.
here is you've got 30 years of them training, okay, through the music so that they could fill their prisons, and that's through private stockholders that own the prisons, and through the getting the rap hard and getting it out there, got your thugs and your bagging and you're treating your women and breaking down the society of the married families, right? Prior to
Hmm.
that, 30 years ago, you had 70% marriage rate with the black family. And now it's a complete opposite.
Right.
But then you have them trained with these video games, so they're in this set. It's almost a hypnotized state. So
Mm,
they are able to manipulate these three generations that are below us because we're Gen Xers, right? So
right.
these three generations that are down below us are literally kind of like their minions
Hmm.
and almost turning against their own parents in their own way, right? They don't respect them. It's just a different.
And even more so with each generation because they're trying to like cut parents out of even life important decisions about whether or not they get gender reassignment
Oh, I'm
surgery and
over it.
stuff like
I
that.
can't
So it's like
stand it.
like I said, I don't even know where to begin with a lot of these conversations. I'm like, there's just so many layers of bullshit we would have to like unpack and properly address and fix and start
Right. Well, obviously, I don't
repairing.
get out that often. I listen a lot, though.
And so like I said, I don't know where to begin, but I'm gonna try just going like way back to like like philosophy 101 and try to figure out where humanity jumped off the
What's
cliff,
going on? Yeah,
and then
that's
see
me
if we
too.
can like reclaim language so we can start talking to each other again, and like
Mhm. Mhm.
and then like have proper debates about like whose ideas are better than others and stuff like that, but I
And
don't even know
why
where
did
to
you
begin.
get that idea? And
Uh,
yeah.
so, anyways, I don't know if you're ready to go soon or not, but just there's a couple of quick questions I had for you before you take
Yeah,
off.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so I don't want to give away all the spoilers, but if you've ever heard me on any panel, you kind of already know where I'm coming from. So my number one focus is religion, and then my second focus is politics, and then and then all the other details that follow that, like culture, society, yada yada yada.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I really don't want to go into like actual philosophy 101 and start going back into like language debates about what words mean and stuff like that, but actually
Item all. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just agree to terms and then properly debate them instead of just like talking past each other and changing the definition while we're debating words and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that's all I'm going to try and salvage at this point. But if needs be, I will properly go back into philosophy if necessary. But hopefully we can use some kind of baseline starting point where some people are going to know what we're talking about 90% of the time, even if we get one little word not so clear or whatever. But
Right, right.
so once I start establishing those main pillars of discussion, I think I'm going to quickly figure out whether or not there's even an audience for my particular message, because I kind of have a message, but like I said, I don't even know like where to start on some of these things, because um like religion is a whole big can of worms that can just completely eat up all my time.
Mhm.
Politics starts opening up all kinds of tangents where you start going down so many like conspiracy, theory
Mhm.
rabbit holes where you'll never see sunshine ever again. And so, and then like, there's the endless debates of even the same old politics that we should have settled decades ago, but yet we are still debating them
Here we
and stuff
are.
like
Yep.
that. And so, um, I am just kind of curious. You kind of hinted here and there at some of your background. Do you mind just telling me like what your religious background is?
I was raised the baby of 8, Catholic,
Okay.
uh, Sunday every Sunday, and private school 1st through 8th grade, and then I went to a public school 9th grade, and the rest of like I said, my brothers all continued on with their friends to the public school, Catholic school. I went ninth through
Okay.
12th to a public
So,
school,
so you were
and then
raised
right when I
Catholic. Did
graduated,
you stay
yes,
Catholic or did you choose other things at any point?
I'm the Lord is with me in my spirit. Jesus was a man that shows me how to heal. I healed my father with a stroke at 92, and my family killed him. I know how to do that. Um, I've practiced all my life in prayer, which it tells you to meditate. I'm not sure,
Hmm.
but it tells you to meditate in your prayer, and that we will do more than He. And so I worked
So
on just doing it out of love, which
are
is
you
through.
are you still Catholic now though? Was my question.
No, I do not do any 501c churches. I do not need four walls. I actually do more outdoor and prayer and community. There's a lot of it going on right now in these panels. I'm really glad the discussion's going. About 8 months ago, I was disgusted on this Paul, some slave guy, and he had his head hanging on a cross, and he said, "Your daddy died for you," with his face. I went the frick off. Like
Yeah, that's just
it's just
blasphemy.
not right. And ever since then, it's like the religious thing just took off in
Yeah.
the last 8 months, because I really made like an attention about it. I was new in that whole chat room, but I was just like, that's just not right. And this dude's talking about he's holier than thou,
Okay,
or he's
so you're
whatever.
kind of raised like, organized religion, but now you're a little less enthusiastic about just going with the status quo is what
Yes,
I'm
because
hearing.
I do not get inspired. The Holy Spirit isn't there. It doesn't matter which church or I'm going into. I want to go up to the pillar and tell them all to wake up and start going.
Have you
And
tried
that
any other churches or religions, or is it
I
just
did in
Catholic and
Vegas,
then
a
the rest?
few non-denominationals. I've looked at some that were around here. It's it reminds me of a machine of people going in and then just kind of popping out the other way, and there's really nothing being. They're not uplifted in a sense of the Holy Spirit isn't there. I
And
don't
we
know.
don't
It's like
need no education. Yeah, that
yeah,
machine.
yeah, it's something going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so I'll just go ahead and spoil it. I'm a non-denominational.
That's me, I guess. Yeah.
I come from a little group known as the Churches of Christ. Have you ever heard of them?
Mm-mm. I know there's so many. There's thousands of different types of churches. So.
I'll tell you about them at some point. They're not like the perfect place, but they're kind of like the best option that we currently have as humans. I also have my own, complaints with the current status quo organized religions, but I'm not a fan of like when people say I don't like organized religion because it implies that you prefer disorganized religion, which definitely
Not
isn't going
even,
to
yeah,
help.
not disordered, just, yeah, not indoctrinated to the point where they're reading scripts, but they're not really digging into the meaning. It's just
Sure,
not,
sure.
yeah.
And so I also am definitely not a fan of the groups that basically describe themselves as spiritual but not religious. And that's one of those red flags I immediately pick up on that, I already
Hmm.
know who I'm talking to because
Hmm.
I've dealt with
Hmm.
those people most of my life. And again, they always use phrases like, we don't care about organized religion anymore. And you're like, okay, so what is your religion? And they're like, well, I just worship God through trees and flowers and spending in time
Oh,
in the
no, 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 no,
sunshine and
no,
stuff. And you're like,
no, no.
okay, what does
I,
that
I
mean?
ground, I ground, I meditate, I dance. So
Sure.
my energy runs through me. So that's how I get my energy at my age. I don't go to a gym. I never believed in it. I do resistance training for myself. So it's not like I need it's just not like that. I've never been like I don't overeat. I'm not a glutton. You know,
Yeah.
um, I've literally for myself. I'm probably too strict. I fell in love once. I was married for 3 years with my heart, and then we had my child when I was 25, and then I was 30. I had another one, but I had been on the road, and I left for 2.5 years in the Bahamas, and then went to Reno. Then he supposedly was going to clean himself up, right? Not be in the situation it was. Otherwise, you're not legit, and you're not going to be the father to my child.
Hmm.
We were together once, and I had my son, and he went back to the woman that he thought would be submissive, who didn't speak English when she got here, an Asian. It was in the '90s when they were hiring, like buying Russian women, wives, whatever.
Sure.
It was a mess. And this person never had children, and she went after me later in life in like 2011 and hit me with a vehicle. They took me to court
Oh wow.
because I was in the right. I represented myself. They owed me just on one daughter, which I stopped the child support. I didn't want anything from them. If you want to take your child, that's the type of person I was. I even named her Joelle. In his mind, he thought I named her after him. His name is Joseph Joe. My
Hmm.
mother's name was Barbara Joanne, and she died before I was 2, and they called her Bobby Joe. So her nickname is Aunt JoJo. So in my mind, I won. But in his mind, he thinks he won. He's an Aries. So I have to, in my own way, uh, the egg was so cracked, uh, trust and love.
Hmm.
So I raised both my children on my own and was with my father, who was elderly. And in those 17 years, not one man ever showed up or was at that home. And my children never met any Harry, Dick, or Joe, put it that way.
Hmm.
I respect my father, and I took care of my brother when he passed, the first 2 years that I was there. And then after that, I was there till they took me to court and they hit me with a vehicle in 2011. So I went through 2 years of therapy trying to get my back straight and not say anything to the judge, not saying that I'm not working. I was taking care of my dad, and then after it was said and done, I didn't even know it was really things were going on. Like my tires were being spiked, my gas was cut. Like they were trying to take me out because they owed me 85,500 on my daughter, and I didn't want it. What I had done is daughter went to college. All I did was go down and put down at the child support place. There was nothing on my son. He was just added in when he was born, but he never paid on him. So all I was saying is she's leaving, so I'm going to be claiming him for my taxes. Well, they pulled up my files, and before I even got a letter, they got a letter stating, you owe her 85,500. So next thing I got slapped with this, we want full custody of Zane. I'm like, what's going on? Like it was so, I was like, what? And then I was drawn into literally 4 years of just a drag out battle, and I represented myself. It wore me out. He must have spent 50 something thousand on that woman lawyer, and I went up against her. And then I ended up moving out here with the money that I got from the car accident. They hired these people and took a rental car and took in Vegas $300,000 on a rental car. Like that's unheard of. So they accordion that vehicle and smushed it, wrecked me at 65 miles an hour, and I went to work not realizing, and 4 hours in, dude's like, you better go. And like the next day I went to chiropractor and they got me a lawyer, and for 2 years I went through therapy and fought that case and got myself out here, and I'm safe ever since. But I've been on a mission since I've been here, just figuring out the hell this realm is and what's going on.
Wow. So, yeah, that's the other complicated part of a lot of these discussions is like as soon as you start getting into like certain topics like religion, politics, or whatever, then you quickly find out like why people so passionately believe about this and that, and so
Oh
um,
yeah, I'm
there
the whole
there's
porn, 30 years of porn and rap, and like the whole
well, just
computer thing.
everybody's
And
life experiences. Like you just told us about, like how your past with ex-husbands and whatnot, and so
well, no, 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 never married.
oh,
So
sorry,
he's
your
the only person. I have two children
boyfriend.
with him. But I was ashamed by a family that's huge that ended up getting divorces that would pay the church to forgive their sins if they got a divorce and got with another woman. Like, tell me that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
No, no,
So
no, 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 no.
there's
I don't
like
buy any of it.
so many additional details that people bring to the table and say this is why I believe in XYZ, and so that's why I
Yeah.
always kind of dread the long detailed discussions, because sometimes people don't want to talk about certain topics anymore, because then they'll bring up an example of why certain events in their life have traumatized them, to the point where they don't even want to, you know, rationally or logically think about, whatever you're discussing. And so it's
Hmm.
very, very difficult sometimes to navigate some of these conversations, because again, I try to come off almost as like a very boring robot that has no emotions or feelings, just so I can get like some simple ideas clearly stated and covered before we get into all the
Well, I was
humanity stuff.
trying to get into the religion part of it. Is that
Oh
I have
yeah,
such high standards and morals. No man came into my life. I was with no man when I was pregnant, and I've moved out here and I've been celibate ever since. So
right.
yeah, I have
So
really high standards, and I'm not running around trying to see what guy's going to take care of me and what,
but
like, that just never was part of my life. Like
but
I
you
don't think like that.
but you can understand how like say we were just having a very dry boring conversation about like the basics of like religion X or whatever, like Christianity for example, and then each human in the room has their own history and experience in dealing with these ideologies, and some people have been rubbed very the wrong way, being raised up in religion X, and so now they say, this is what religion X has done to me in my life, and that's why I don't want any more of it or whatever.
Oh
And
no,
then
I did I did dancing for him in the church. Like I still do it. I'm very passionate about my
so
the way
let
I
me let
honor.
me
So
let me give you a counter example. So for example, when I asked you about your religious history, you said Catholicism basically. And so even though I wasn't born or raised into Catholicism, I'm very aware of it. I've argued with quite a few Catholics over my time, and I have particularly interesting insights into Catholicism because I have my own family members who were born and raised into our little non-denominational church, who later in life decided to convert to Catholicism simply based on the fact that it allows certain marriages to disappear and stuff like that within their system. And so, a family member of mine, my own nuclear family, um, decided to reject their original upbringing, the Christianity they were taught, because they heard about this new brand of Christianity that allows you to magically hand wave your marriage
Mhm.
away. And
Mhm.
so, that's a perfect example of like why this shit gets so screwy very fast, because it's like, we can sit here and just talk about the, black and white doctrinal teachings of X versus Y, but when you interject all of your human experiences into it, suddenly it creates like this huge level of bias where you feel like, see, this is what this religion did to me, and this is why I think this religion is garbage or whatever and stuff like that. And so I think those are interesting, interjections, but overall, I almost feel like it's not helping the conversation, because I can give you emotional reasons why I think that, like, a particular religion is flawed, just because on the surface it sounds like, it's just like, hypocritical or whatever, or just, deceptive or whatever. And so, but I have plenty of reasons why I already didn't like that religion, that just based purely on logic and reason and stuff like that. And so, again, this is why it's just so hard to have these conversations with people, because, and this is just talking like on the surface level of things. And then, like, when you start adding layers to things, like, how your religion affects your political views and stuff like that, or vice versa, like how your political views
They
all your
don't.
life. Well,
They don't really.
some people, they kind of go hand in hand. And so, and then see, that's what I'm talking about. People are different. So, like, even though you and I can talk about it, with, a certain amount of objectivity and, removal of emotions and baggage and stuff like that, other humans, that's all they talk about. They just talk about how their emotions fucked them up, and how they had a, messed up experience with certain members of
Mm.
certain religions, and then that's why they don't even want to talk about religion. Is like, I understand where they're coming
Well,
from, but
mine was more traveling at 17. I went to Japan twice. I lived in the Bahamas. I lived in Acapulco. I lived in the East Coast. Like, I just dabbled into everybody's culture and their personalities, and I took their heart and their spirit, and I can
that's why I was
sense when
curious if
people
you
are
ever
negative.
tested
Like,
out like Eastern religions or anything like that.
yeah, I went to the temples and I just whatever their little rituals were. Like, I walked the steps
Are
quietly, and
are you
I
familiar
went.
with other religions?
Um, some of them, like even my masseuse I hired in Japan, were blind. Like, that's how they put their blind people to work, was giving them masseuse job. Why not? They don't need the light on. They can do it by feeling and touch. Like, I think that's a really good solution. So there's different things that I picked up, and massage and that type of thing is very healthy for you.
Have you
So I
ever
don't.
have you ever
Yeah,
pondered things like Hinduism or Buddhism or anything like that?
no,
Have you ever been introduced to it?
mm, not really. I My training and everything I did came more on a spiritual level because of the Catholic, yeah. But it was my mom died before 11 days before my second birthday. So I was always on a spiritual quest, and my favorite word is seeking.
Hmm.
And so if I was supposed to love Jesus with all my heart and I didn't see him and it wasn't physical, right? It wasn't in front of
Hmm.
me, then where's my mom and where did she go and who was that physical being? So I've always had um, just an inquisitive spiritual side. I guess that's what it would be. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay, so, throughout my series of topics, like I said, I plan on covering them all, but and I can only share my point of view. And like I said, I have a very strong Christian background, but I have also
Me too.
personally gone through my own spiritual journey of agnosticism, atheism. I looked into the Eastern religions, even though there was nothing there that really struck my interest as something I wanted to pursue or whatever.
Hmm.
But, and I'm, aware enough of all of their religions, including Judaism and Islam and stuff like that. And so, Again, I've
Well,
debated a lot of these people and pondered it and thought about it, and so that's what I want to use this channel for. I want everyone in the audience to be able to at least hear different sides of points of view and see if they can kind of decide for
I think it's
themselves,
perfect. Yeah.
like which one they feel like is the closest to the truth. And so
Mhm.
um, that's my religion angle. And then, like I said, I already clearly stated my politics, which I'll go ahead and give you spoilers. Throughout my political journey, I've pretty much arrived at the point where I'm at now, which is I'm basically an ANCAP at heart. Practically
Explain that.
speaking,
Just explain that first.
oh, anarcho
Oh, okay,
capitalist.
okay. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you said that. I caught that when we were talking that day. I got you. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So anarchy is just no government, no state,
Right.
just pure freedom. And then again, capitalism is just the voluntary exchange of goods and services. So that's to me, that's the only like reasonable choice in life. But anyways, but throughout my history of debating people online, and of course, practically speaking, in this modern global world we live in, it's not an option. There's nowhere you can pull off anarchy because you're going to be
Mhm.
absorbed by some other government nearby anyway.
Right, right, right.
So you might as well at least plant your flag into the ground and
Try and
establish some
mold.
sort of like libertarian government that fends off all the invaders. And so that's why I reluctantly agree to say that I'm a libertarian because practically speaking that's what I am. So if you ever heard of like Dave Smith or Ron Paul or whatever,
Yeah, Ron Paul, definitely.
those are the kind of politicians that I would debate in politics.
We really got off on it 2 years ago with the Fauci, and this guy. He's just really out there. Not a lot of people can take him, and I watched him for a while, but his name's Salty Cracker. But we used to have this thing in the chat, and he would even do it, and it was just hilarious. And anybody new wouldn't pick up on it, but we knew what we were saying, and it was "Shut up, Paul," and it was
Yeah.
when Fauci told him, "You don't know what you're talking about. Shut up, Paul." We were just
so
laughing.
that's definitely where I'm going to push my view on because again, I'm not going to just be a completely objective observer in this experience. I'm going to try to be as objective as possible, but I definitely have a message to preach here on this channel. And so that's my politics. And then the final step, which should be more insignificant than it is, but unfortunately in this world we're in, the economy debate has become so critical to our way of life that I feel like it's one of the major pillars that I have to now debate. And
Yeah,
so throughout my journey, I am crystal clear on this topic. Like I'm not even kind of doubting that there is any good debate for socialism. And so the
right.
only debate left is what form of capitalism is the best. And so the only reason why you can't just say capitalism and then you're done is because there are um, weaknesses to capitalism that have to be addressed, and that's the
Hmm.
only
Hmm.
debate remaining. And um, so
We
after
need a
that,
clean slate, like even playing field and build up. Something's got to happen.
yeah, yeah, and to get to that point, that's the fun part. Like, how do we get there?
Hmm. It's
so
gonna be bumpy. Yep.
So the only remaining time I will devote is just the debate between things like democracies and republics or meritocracies or whatever. And so I think that's the only thing useful left to discuss. And after that, it's just all details about like what color you want to paint the walls or whatever. And so
All right.
so
I hear you.
so
Well,
that's
that's good.
kind
I think you should because you're a good debater, and I think you can draw in a crowd that would suit you in those areas. Keep your you want to you're getting around. I mean, are
yeah,
you getting
yeah.
people subbing and stuff like that? Is this a different channel because this showed up when it came up, or you just opened up another?
Oh, this is my channel. Right now we're talking on my channel. This is iFi's YouTube channel.
Oh, what were we on before?
We were talking on Flow State's channel. You didn't know you were on Flow State's channel?
Oh shit! They could see everything I was writing.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh shit!
Yeah, it helps to know what's
What
going
the fuck was I saying? Oh my god, Ivy, what was I saying? I forgot.
on. You were just randomly saying like, "Hey, how you doing?" Stuff like that, you know. But yeah,
you said he's mad, and I was like,
yeah, because I basically got kicked off his panel because he got tired of me talking about the origin of life and stuff like that. So I was like,
and I was all, it's nice being over here, and it's chilling, and then I said, I can't.
yeah, that's Flow State's channel. I restreamed it because sometimes I, participate on his panels, so it's just.
Oh my gosh, that's funny because I've never done that. I've never been like somebody restream and I've not just jumped in there just to be like not seeing everybody else like writing.
Yeah.
And so I was just like,
Yeah,
hey,
so
what's
the
up?
original live stream is on his channel. So if you go to the Flow State's channel, you can see the original live.
Oh, so when you were like, hey, let's talk, and I was like, okay.
Yeah,
Where?
that's what I was like. I got my own because he kicked me off the panel, so I was like, fine, if you don't want to talk anymore, I'll just go make my own panel.
And I'm just cluing in right now. That's hilarious.
That's okay. We have our little boomer moments where we're like, how do
that
we
was
technology?
so boomer of me. That was so boomer of me. Where the hell am I?
How do I do this technology stuff?
Right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm all in there by myself just talking to you. And there's a whole bunch of shit going on the other side.
Yeah. So
anyways,
anyways,
I know now. It was a pleasure meeting you, Ivy.
Oh, yeah. It's iFi, by the way.
iFi.
Yeah.
iFi.
The Greek letter phi. It's the golden ratio. So I'm a math
Oh, okay.
nerd. But anyways, as soon as my voice gets better, I will actually start producing content. By the way, you're the first video I have actually produced on my channel. So there you go.
Oh, I don't know if you want to leave it up. I don't know what we chatted about, but that's cool. Did you have anybody come in your room? Because I can't see anything.
I didn't see anyone else jump in. It was probably just us because you were the only one that even knew I instantly live streamed. I didn't schedule it or anything or notify anybody. I just instantly started it up. And so, and I think most of my very few subscribers are probably on other people's streams and panels right now anyway, so that's fine. But anyways, it's a slow new channel, but it'll eventually get up to doing stuff. So you're definitely welcome anytime to talk about any topic. Oh, by the way, here's a little heads up for all future viewers. There is nothing that's off limits on this channel. So only TOS. I ask you, please don't get our channel shut down. But other than that, there is no taboo topic or anything you're not allowed to talk about. So obviously, I hope we have some respectful conversations on certain topics, but even if someone like accidentally engages in blasphemy or whatever and they don't realize what they're doing, I'll just kindly ask them.
Welcome, the debate, and if it goes, you're in control. You know what you're
doing. Yeah. But I mean, if they're just doing it to be an asshole, then I may be like, okay, go be stupid somewhere else. But but I definitely won't tell people you're not allowed to bring up XYZ topics or whatever, because those are the ones I'm most interested in. Because first of all, why aren't we allowed to talk about those topics? And then I will just keep asking more questions, and then we'll just talk about it the whole time. So, anyways,
I like prying too. I like getting deep and prying too. So good choice.
So I'm definitely going to seek out truth, and we will find it eventually. So
yeah, we're on it. Chasing the storm.
Hopefully sooner than later. So I'm all about efficiency. So
I know, I can tell. I like it.
Also, there is a little bit of feedback on your microphone. So just
hold on one second. I'll pull out and say goodbye.
Okay.
Is that better?
That's way better because before it was going hum 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 in the background. So,
Right, it starts to do that. I don't even know why with this thing. It does happen, though. I
yeah, I
apologize for
didn't
that.
notice it at first, but then right at the last 10 minutes there, it started really humming hard. So, but
Gotcha,
okay. Uh,
gotcha. It's late,
so
so you get
it,
some stuff.
it's way past my bedtime. I'm old, and so I usually stream like in the middle of the day, normal human hours, and so
Mhm, mhm.
um, I don't know if I'm ever gonna have a schedule or not. I'll just see how this goes. But at first, it's gonna be completely random because it depends on when I'm in the mood or if there's anything interesting to talk about or whatever, or people to
Right, pick
talk
it up.
to. And
Well, hopefully
so
I'll be able to join you in your chat room and build
oh,
you up. Yeah.
anytime. Like I said, I will never say like, get out of here, you. You're always, bringing up all these weird stuff, and I'll be like, hey, what do you want to talk about?
She's out there.
But like I said, you got so many like weird, deep stuff that we ought to just take our time with and just go one at a
Oh,
time and
they're so
talk about.
fun. Yeah, the things that I found out, they're so fun because they're so detailed into what happened, like the sleight of hands and
Yeah,
yeah, just some
but
good stuff.
unfortunately, I have led a very boring life, and so like I don't have any really super interesting stories about uncovering alien bodies or anything like that. So.
Oh, no, nothing
Um,
like that.
Um, Most of my stuff's going to be very routine,
I
boring
did do
stuff.
the Aztec pyramids though and got myself a poncho, but nothing weird
We,
like that.
but most of my experiences are just like Dilbert cartoons and stuff like that. Like dealing with like the American corporate system and how retarded that is, and so that I have plenty of those war stories. But other
Mm.
than that, I've heard some interesting conversations with people, but I also try not to go too far down everyone's rabbit hole because, like I said, so many humans have had such bizarre experiences in their lives that I have to like try and process it the best I can from my perspective. And so,
Right, right. From
um,
whatever your routine or your adventures or your journey or path was,
hmm
that's what you can tap in and relate to when someone's giving you their story, right? Like that's the limit that you have, but then you can expand a little and be like, okay, well I can kind of, but you'll
yeah,
never be in their shoes.
but I'll at least be open minded to like try and understand their perspective the best I can because I have a pretty good imagination, so I'm pretty good at the empathy stuff and whatnot. So
Well, that's good.
we'll
That's
give it
good.
a go. But anyways, I just wanted to warn you that I am pretty passionate about certain topics. So if we start
Hmm.
getting into the weeds about religion and stuff, you're gonna notice I'm very persistent about it. So
Okay. Yeah.
most humans know
I've
like,
actually heard you. I've heard you go at it, and I've been in agreement with you on a lot of things. So
oh,
I've actually heard you go at it.
you haven't heard me get angry about it yet though. So like
Oh, okay.
again, I've been very polite in many conversations because I knew I was getting ready to like really trigger certain people.
Pop. Yeah.
So I was like, let's just skip this topic for
Hey,
now.
if you don't have the passion in you, then you're not believing in what you're putting out.
Oh
So
yeah. Oh, I
I can
definitely
respect that.
believe. That's why I'm saying
Right.
like, and by the way, I hope someone can move me off of my little pedestal because if I'm doing something wrong, you are my best friend on earth because I want you to bring to my attention that I'm doing something wrong. And so that's the whole point of this
Gotcha.
channel. So
Yeah.
you won't hurt my feelings if you slay my sacred cow, but it's it's
That
pretty
red
hard.
herring. Oh my
It's
goodness.
pretty hard to slay my sacred cow, so you really got to do your homework to do that. But I'm open to it.
Okay.
So,
Right on. Well, we'll
all right,
dabble more. That sounds fun.
yep, yep. All right. Well, I enjoyed our chat, and congratulations on being episode 1 on I5's
Hey,
channel.
I5, thanks for having me. I really appreciated it.
By the way, is somewhere in time the Reeves movie or what is
Yeah,
that
yeah. It's
referring to?
traveling back in time. He goes to the his professor, and he gives him it's on the physics of what he needs to do, and he goes through it and basically tries to get the clothing. And what happens is he goes back in time.
I
He
saw
was
the
a
movie.
playwright.
I was just wondering if that's
Yeah,
what
and he
your
finds a
reference was.
penny. Yeah, it's about somewhere in time.
I actually got to stay in that hotel once.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
I want to go. Yeah. Isn't it Michigan or something?
I think it's on Mackinac Island or something in
Mackinac Island. Yep.
near Michigan or something. But
Sweet.
it was a long time ago, but I do remember being there because I remember my parents saying like the reason why they went there was because of that movie, and I later watched the movie after I went there. So
It's
yeah,
just something drew me in when I was like, I was such a kid. I was like 12 or 13 when I saw. I don't remember. I was really young.
it was magically romantic. I enjoyed that
Yeah, it
movie.
was. It was kind of like
Also,
Sound of Music.
I like the idea of time travel, but I actually don't believe it's possible because it would fuck up all reality. But anyways, it's neat to pretend.
Just get back in that meat suit, you.
And don't do that multiverse bullshit with me because there's like infinite universes and our universe doesn't matter. So that's just stupid. So, but
Well,
anyways,
we are here. We are here
yeah,
right now in the
we're here.
present.
And this is happening, and we can't go back in time and sleep with our parents and then uncreate ourselves or something. So,
That's right. You have a good night, buddy. That was
all right,
funny.
all right,
Take
later.
care.
All right, bye bye.
Bye.
And that was the end of the very first episode of iFi. Thank you somewhere in time for joining me for that conversation. And I look forward to all of our future conversations. This is iFi signing off.